and do those and show me when you're done. All right. So here we go. Last theorem of the unit: vertical angles are congruent. Okay, vertical angles are congruent. Set up your statements, reasons, mark your diagram. You will notice here, I think I put a couple of these in your homework. I don't remember, but you'll start noticing this proof doesn't have givens, doesn't have the word given or the word prove. Instead, I've written it into if-then statement. You guys, science class, hypothesis, conclusion, sound familiar? I can also do it here. So whatever's with the if, that's your givens now. And whatever's with the then, that's your proof statement. So a different way to write it. I'm not going to approach it any differently. It's just a different way to say, hey, you're doing statements, reasons. All right, let's do it. We need to get to 3 and 1 congruent, just knowing 2 and 3. Before I talk about this specific proof, let me just talk about proofs in general going forward. Notice how I've labeled 3 of the angles with numbers, 1, 2, and 3. I did that because I want you to focus on those 3. I want you to focus on them. If you call me over during a test or quiz and be like, Mr. Carlian, do you care if can I put a 4 and a 5 there? Sure, you can, but I didn't put them there because you don't need them. All right, so you should never have to add in extra info on your diagram. Just stick with the ones that I have labeled for you, 1, 2, and 3. We know 2 and 3 are equal, but we're trying to get to 1 and 3. Are 1 and 3, are those any special types of angles we've talked about yet this year? Are they vertical? Linear pairs? Nothing, right? So they have no relationship. But out of those 3 angles I've labeled, 1, 2, and 3, you should see a relationship between 2 of them, which angles have a relationship up here? Let's start it off right. 8, Josh. Which ones? 2 and 1. So if they're vertical, that makes them congruent to each other. I want to be specific here. You do not use definition of vertical. The definition of 2 vertical angles is doesn't say they're congruent. The theorem says they're congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. I still need 3 and 1 though, right? I still need angle 3 congruent to angle 1. So I need somehow to connect these 2 here. And this is something I showed you on day 1. If 3 is congruent to 2 and 2 is congruent to 1, hey. Ooh, my eyes light up. I see a little repetition of angle 2. So if I have 3 and 1 are both equal to angle 2, what should I know about 3 and 1 now? Ooh, 13, 3 and 1. Ksenia? 3 congruent to 1. Do you know what makes me allowed to say that for a bonus here? Okay. All I'm doing, ready? All I did was I took angle 1 and substituted it in. Correct. And remember, anytime I see that repetition, I want to start thinking substitution. Any questions? That's a basic use of vertical. We're going to go a little more difficult now in the next one. Anything you want to ask before I go a little bit more hardcore on it? All right, let's go. Come on, honors kids. All right, this is another if-then statement. So you guys know now whatever's with the if are my givens. What's up?
Are we supposed to write the intersects part?
You can. really, man, I'm not going to get hardcore until we get to the readings exam with having that in there, but I just write the congruent stuff and the supplementary. It's any vocabulary terms I write in. But it is good to know that they do, though. Okay, don't overlook it just because you may not write it in there. Don't overlook this, because I think that's going to help us here if we get stuck. All right, let's first talk. Proof statement says prove angle M congruent to angle N. Look at your diagram. Are those two vertical? No. So this is not going to be a two-step proof. Plus, anyway, I don't know a better term to use, but can we have a common sense check? Why would this just be M congruent to N vertical angles and you don't even touch X and Y? Remember, I give you givens to use them all. I will never give you a proof where I provide givens that are not used at all. Okay, every given and use will be used every time. So no way can this be two steps because I already gave you X congruent to Y. All right, so how can we get there then? How can we get to M and N being congruent? Remember these lines intersect. Where are these lines? BEA. Oh, DEC. Anybody see maybe some special types of angles we've talked about that we can use with X and Y to get to M and N here? Huh? How can I get to M and N using maybe those intersecting lines and angles X and Y? I don't want to call anybody here. Anybody see anything here? How can you leave this in a class? Okay. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Anybody see what I can do here, what this is going to end up being? What's up, Z?
DEA and BEC are vertical angles.
Everyone, hey, intersecting lines form vertical angles. I know if they form two pair, here's a pair of vertical angles, but I don't think those will help. Here are the ones that are going to help. Look at these two bad boys. Everyone see those vertical angles? Oh, we're starting to see a little something. What can I do with those vertical angles and angle X and Y to maybe get to M and N? This is a subtraction proof, everyone. Subtraction. Wait, don't. Am I allowed to subtract in step 2? Why not? Because I only have one pair. What's the second pair I still need to write down? I need the vertical angles written down, right? That's the second pair I'm going to be subtracting. So I need to say angle DEA is congruent to angle BEC. Vertical angles are congruent. So in this proof, my vertical angles gave me my second pair to subtract. Remember back in the day, that was only reflexive that gave you the second pair, but not anymore. All right, give me one pair of angles you want me to subtract from each other. One pair of angles you want me to subtract from each other. Ones, Will? DEA minus angle X, good work, is the same as subtracting 8. Josh, give me the other pair, angle.
BEC minus Y.
You guys are good. And that's subtraction. Perfect. And you guys know the deal. This is not, I promise you, this is not changing all year long. If you write subtraction or addition, your next step is automatic, the substitution step, with the equivalent plugged in, which for us would be M congruent to N. So a subtraction proof where your missing pair of equal quantities were the vertical angles. Good work, everyone. Anything else? I want to move and get the next one done so we can work in our groups more. All right, last one. Oh, I love this one. This is so hardcore. we are asked to prove why 4 and 6 are equal. Why are 4 and 6 equal? All right, I look at 4 and 6, definitely not vertical, no relation, so we're going to have to get there some other way. Nobody look at their diagram now, please. Don't look at the diagram. Look at the two givens. Without even looking at the diagram, can you tell me two angles that should be congruent in step 2? Just by looking at 1 congruent to 2 and 2 congruent to 3 right away, before I even start looking at the diagram, what other two angles have to be equal then? Ooh, Will, back to you today. 3 congruent to 1. What made you decide to say that? Yes, sir. Substitution. All right. So now I'm at 3 congruent to 1. Somebody, what's the proof statement again? 4 congruent to 6. So now we might want to start looking at the diagram and telling me some information either about angle 4 or angle 6. You telling me something about 3 and 5 isn't going to do me any good. I need to get to 4 and 6 here soon. So either start with angle 4 or start with angle 6 and give me a true fact right now. Based on your diagram and what you know, tell me something about angles 4 or 6. 6? Oh, look at that. That was cute. Thomas?
3 and 6 and vertical.
And you even used it. You're the man. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 6. Vertical angle is congruent. I'm going to, I don't want to say require, advise you to put 1 pair of vertical angles in each statement. Do not try to fit all of them in because you're going to get confused. Trust me. Fit 1 pair for 1 statement. Now, for step 4, I don't want you to go back to the diagram and start listing more vertical angles. It's going to get confusing. Use what you have. Look at what you just wrote for statements 2 and 3 right now. 3 congruent to 1, 3 congruent to 6. Give me another pair right now without even looking at your diagram that are congruent. 3's congruent to 1, 3's congruent to 6. That means which two angles now are equal? For Doyle.
Angles 1 and angle 6 are
Good.
congruent.
Good job. What made you say that?
Because they're both congruent to angle 3.
AKA substitution. All right, I got 1. We're at 1 congruent to 6. Whoa! I got 6. What's the other angle I need to introduce now? 4, right? So go back to your diagram. Give me information about angle 4. 2, Zoe, angle 4 and? Look at that. Angle 4 congruent to angle 1 because they're vertical. Look at what you just wrote now. Look at steps 4 and 5 and come up with a conclusion. 1's congruent to 6, 4's congruent to 1, leaving 15. Gabby, what's left? What two angles are congruent now? And that's what I needed. Whoa. Before we move on here, I want you to understand why I advise you to put 1 pair of vertical angles in a single step. When students start putting multiple vertical angles in the same step, they don't understand that it takes more than 1 substitution to get to the end. Okay, I think when you put 1 pair in 1 statement, you notice, oh, I got a substitute here. I got a substitute here, instead of maybe only 1 substitution being here, and that's incorrect. Did you see here? 1? You need 3 substitutions to finish this proof, not 1. All right, so you'll get that way if you just put 1 pair in 1 statement. All right, turn it over for me. You and your group are going to do number 1. Call me over when everyone's got the same work and you agreed. And 2 and 3 are going to be for homework. So once I give you the okay on number 1, I'm going to have you do more proofs. All right, so 2 and 3 are going to be for homework tonight. Everybody good? That's your only homework tonight, too. You're welcome. 2 and 3. All right, I'm going to have you guys do more proofs in class. Let me know when you're done.